everybody? It's your host, Brent Bilski, a.k.a. Double B, a.k.a. the 110 Soldier. Today, it is post-All-Star Game edition in the NBA. I got a few things to talk about. I'm going to talk about Victor Wembanyama. He showed the skills on the court.
Nunchuck skills.
Yes.
Skills.
But he didn't show the skills off of it from the Saturday debacle. And also, I got one skill he needs to add to his game that'll truly make Victor Wembanyama unstoppable. Also, Bronny found his balls. Congratulations to Bronny James. He's proven he's worthy a little bit. I got some Bronny James updates. You guys, do you want to crown Juju too early? Although she had a great game, she is still not the queen of women's basketball. I'll explain that more in Miss Caitlin Clark and that whole comparison. And speaking of Caitlin Clark, we're going to eliminate DEI in the All-Star Game. There is DEI inclusion currently, and I know it's a sensitive topic. A lot of y'all get all antsy in your pantsy, but it's true with the return of the Mac and everything else. I got a thing I want to discuss there as far as some solutions to that. And so we might as well kick right into it. The All-Star Game edition of the show is today. And first thing I got to say as you pop this picture up here, Mateo, is it's probably time to get rid of it. It's just, they tried this year with the new format, but it just gets worse and worse. We need to put this thing to bed. They just don't make them like they used to, man. I mean, Joker even said, there's a time to accept defeat, or as Blade famously said, sometimes MFers are just trying to keep ice skating uphill. They've just decided as players that it's not worth the risk. And ironically, the only player that's ever actually gotten hurt in an All-Star game after all these years and all this worry is Kobe Bryant, the one who would literally be rolling over in his grave. He got a broken nose from Dwayne Wade years ago. But I mean, there really, even though hasn't been anything to go on as far as historically, players have decided they're just not built like the Birds and Magics and Chamberlains and Russells. They're just not going to take this shit seriously, man. They're too worried about getting hurt. Teams are too worried about them getting hurt. And so they're going to blase half their ass way all through this whole thing. And it's just become even more of a joke year after year. Now, this year was not as bad as previous years, but it still wasn't great, even with the cute new format, and I think it's, again, just time to put it to sleep. Put it to bed, man. They just don't build them like they used to. The format changes aren't working. They've done multiple tweaks to the All-Star Game, trying to get these guys to find that competitive spirit. Since like 2018, they've had the player draft. They used to have the fourth quarter, untimed. They've tried the 4-team tourney now. They let the, TNT draft. They tried all sorts of stuff. None of it seemed to work because you can't force people to be other than exactly who they are. And these are very rich athletes who have decided, and not even really, I get it. I mean, I understand the idea of like, dude, I ain't getting hurt for this All-Star Game. I got a season. I got things I got to do. I got championships I want to win. I am not going to get hurt in this format. And again, it just boils down to the fact that you look at the picture. I mean, they're dancing now. They're having fun. They're being silly. They just aren't like they used to be built, where it was really all about competitiveness and pride, and they were just going to put their balls and asses on the line, pause intended, if that's what it took to win a ball game, and they would risk injury if that was what was going to need to happen. And I mean, the last one I can remember, even, it's been a minute since I can remember a truly competitive All-Star game. But to give you an idea of what I'm even saying, let me tell you a story real quick. This is one of my favorites. 2003, Kobe Bryant. If you need an idea of what I'm trying to explain to you, of like, man, they just don't build them like they used to build them. I'm going to go to this video here if you don't mind. 2003, this was a great story. The day that Kobe decided to ruin his own hero's farewell. Take you back. This is in Atlanta, Georgia, again, 03. 40-year-old Michael Jordan's last All-Star game versus a 24-year-old Kobe Bryant, and this was the old Lion versus the young Lion. The game was tied 136 in overtime. Michael Jordan hits this amazing fadeaway. 4.8 seconds left over Sean Matrix. Look at this thing. Beautiful. Vintage Jordan. It's an amazing shot. Everyone's excited. He gives them the lead in overtime in his last game of his career, and even Isaiah Thomas, who was the head coach of the Eastern Conference and Michael Jordan's sworn enemy, said we should walk off and call it. Kobe Bryant didn't think so. After the timeout, famously, Kobe Bryant gets fouled in the corner here. And again, Isaiah Thomas is the coach of the Eastern Conference. And he's, again, Michael Jordan's sworn enemy. He asked Kobe and sent Steve Francis to tell him, dude, miss these free throws. Steve Francis said Kobe Bryant shot him a look that'll never forget because Kobe Bryant was not there to just meet his hero. Kobe Bryant was there to beat his hero, and he didn't give a damn about Michael Jordan's last shot or a farewell game or a nice send-off. He ends up making the free throws, and they go into overtime where the West ends up winning and sends Michael Jordan off with a loss. And the look that Jordan gave him, as you see right there, was classic. Because this is why Jordan called him his little brother in his memorial and was in tears, because they understand the truth that this is not how you do things, and this is all about, I want to win and I want to beat you. Michael Jordan was his hero, but he understood, just like anybody else, these are the old lion versus the young lion. You know how the old lions die? They don't get to go off to a nice little, rest and just sleep and die of old age. They get eaten by the young lion. The young lion comes in and tears them apart, tears their family apart, tears anything that they know apart, and says, this is my time now. Kobe made the decision to say, Michael, I'm sorry, that was cute, that was a nice shot, but I don't give a damn you're my hero or not. I'm going to win this game because I'm Kobe Bryant, because I take everything I play seriously, and I'm going to make my hero leave a zero because that is my time to shine. Goodbye. That is the difference from 20 years ago to now. Guys like Kobe just don't exist anymore, man. It just is what it is. And the All-Star game itself, look, it was cute. It was fine. It was fine. We can hit this next video here for me, Mateo. The All-Star game was okay. Yeah, we watched it last night again. It was better than previous year. Steph Curry, hits a nice runner there. Team Shaq beats Team Chuck 41-25 in their new format. Steph Curry won the MVP. Steph Curry was also part of creating this whole new format that they have. And it was, like we said, more competitive than the Indy shit show from 2024, where they combined for like 400 points and it was a glorified layup line. There was some defense played. I mean, there was blocks by Wemby. It was his first All-Star game. Jaren Jackson. Kyrie actually took the game serious, which I was shocked about. And again, it was an interesting idea. It was a four-team single elimination tourney. The three All-Star teams that were drafted by Kenny, Shaq, and Chuck versus the Rising Stars team that played against the OGs and Steph, who ended up winning the entire thing. Players themselves about the whole new format had mixed reviews. Of course, Curry liked it, Mobley liked it, Atkinson liked it. Donovan Mitchell, Hero Garland said it was okay, but it was just okay. Draymond and Jokic hated it. They flat out said this was stupid. Draymond even said adding the Rising Stars made it a 0 and that it sucked. The one thing everyone agreed on, the multiple stoppages, that was the main problem. I'm not showing you right now in between all the highlights here. They had to stop in between each one of these little mini games, and it just drew it out with a bunch of nonsense. They had concerts. They had a $100,000 shot thing with the guy from YouTube, and I mean, that was cute. That was actually at least somewhat entertaining, but there was break after break after break, way too many pauses. Even Tatum said that last part of the game that, like, dude, you couldn't even really get back into it. Curry expects more tweaks next year. And so if this is the best we can do, and again, it was fun. There's the MVP hitting his turnaround three, and it had its moments. It's still, there's the half court by Steph. It still was a silly little barely played All-Star game, and I don't like the idea that we have to pat these guys on the back because they played at least a modicum of defense in between the points of being lazy as usual to avoid injury. So it was fine. It was okay. I still don't think it was anything worth watching if you're not a true basketball fan, and that's the real issue. You got to bring the casuals back. And so Curry said himself, as the inventor of this format, or at least one of the co-inventors, that he expects, again, more tweaks. And I mean, here we go again with more and more tweaks every year, trying to change the inevitable, which is that these guys just don't want to get hurt and they're not going to risk it. Some people want to go back now to the traditional game with an East versus West. We've had that. That didn't work. Some people are now proposing Team USA versus Team World. Maybe that'll get their juices flowing, and that's problematic for a few reasons. One of them being we already have issues with people getting snubbed or not getting this or that or whatever. If you make it all Euro, all USA, you're probably going to have even more problems trying to get the right people into the All-Star game. I've heard other people say, let's move it to the end of the season. I guess, but I mean, I don't think they want to get rid of All-Star Weekend. I don't see that as a possibility. For injury concerns, you could help teams by saying maybe, hey, let's do if somebody gets hurt, you get a trade exemption post the trade deadline, but that's still not going to help the player play any harder. That's just going to make the team maybe a little, more comfortable there. I just say scrap it. I really do. I just say scrap the whole thing entirely. Let's go NFL. NFL figured out that the main thing about All-Star weekends and in their Pro Bowl weekend, that we just need to celebrate the skills of these players without putting them in harm's way of injury. And so they reimagined the whole thing. Instead of doing the actual game, which no one was watching anymore and nobody was playing hard anymore, they did things with new events like precision passing, dodgeball, tug-of-war, etc. I mean, the TV ratings still aren't that great for the Pro Bowl, but everyone seems to be at least somewhat happier. And I think the NBA truly is better suited for this. So I do have an idea that I hope you guys can give me at least a thought on this. This is my solution to try to fix the All-Star Game debacle and the fact that these guys are just never going to try that hard when it counts. So let me know.
I like that idea, and I will support it.
My solution for fixing the All-Star Game problems of Sunday is not moving it, is not trying to do this, is not throwing money at him, is not doing any other sort of nonsense. Hit this picture here for me, Mateo. My solution is an All-Star Game exemption for an event. So what I mean by this, and this will solve the two biggest problems with trying to figure out what to do about All-Star Sunday. All-Star Saturday is already also a shit show. There is no All-Stars anymore on Saturday. The events themselves, the little mini events, the three-point contest and the dunk contest, I mean, other than being saved by a G Leaguer and Mac McClung, which I'll get into here in a little bit, don't have nearly the stars that they used to. And three-point doesn't have Steph. There's no Clay. There's no Trey. There's no Luka. It's all a bunch of young guys and like a Lillard and a couple people. And a lot of those guys aren't even shooters. It just didn't really have anything to it. Hero won with like a 24, which wasn't even that great. The dunk contest, of course, was led by a damn G Leaguer and then three no-namers. There was no Ant, there was no Giannis, there was no Ja, there was no Zion. There wasn't any of the what we used to see in the great All-Star weekends where you'd have MJ and Bird and Kobe and Neek, etc. that would compete in the event. So problem one is that we've had nobody show up anymore to the Saturday part of the All-Star weekend. And the other part that, of course, we've covered is that how can these stars still show skill, creativity, and most importantly, compete with less risk injury and not having to worry so much about getting hurt. So my solution, and let me know what you think here,
now let's go with my concept.
Is an All-Star Game exemption for an event, meaning that if you get selected to the All-Star Game and you compete in an event, you can then skip the game entirely. I say scrap the game entirely, but if you get selected to the All-Star Game, that means you have to compete in one of three events, the three-point contest, the dunk contest, and I'm scrapping the skills competition, and we're going with the one-on-one tournament. This way, we get the best of both worlds. This is now no longer a problem for All-Star Saturday because now the events that had no more stars anymore actually get some stars to go in it, and they don't have to worry about injury so much. Everybody gets to compete, be creative, and go to somewhere where maybe they can be best used or their skills are suited. Like with this year's All-Stars that were selected, three-point contest, obviously guys like Steph, Trey, Hero, Lillard, KD, Harden, Kyrie, Kat, they would all be able to go over there. If you did a one-on-one tournament, which I think would be a lot of fun, it actually worked very well for Unrivaled, the ladies tournament on TNT over there, got the best ratings they've had in a very long time. We like to watch one-on-one, and that's what the All-Star Game is really about, is seeing the best compete against the best here. You can have guys go head-to-head from this year like Brown, Tatum, LeBron if he would have played, Brunson, Cade, Williams, SGA, Mitchell, Jokic, Şengün, Wemby in a one-on-one competition against all those guys would be a blast to watch. And then the last one, finally, the dunk contest can get some damn stars in it. No more BS teases, no more BS tweets about, oh, I might compete, or man, he's really making me think about it. We would be able to have people like Giannis, Ja, Anthony Edwards, Zion, if he ever gets himself healthy again in future All-Star games, to go against guys like Mac McClung and these high flyers and these guys we never heard of. And that way you get the battles you used to have and names get to be made the way that like Spud Webb used to be back when he competed against Neek and Jordan. So again, you don't have to compete in the All-Star Game. We will scrap it entirely, but if you're selected, you have to compete in one of these three events, either the three-point contest, the slam dunk contest, or the one-on-one tournament. And even for injury scares, one-on-one tournament is the only one that is slightly risky, but if anyone's played basketball for more than 5 minutes, and Lord knows these guys have, you know that it's very easy to try to play somewhere between competitive and safely. When it's just one versus one, there's less worry about other people, things to step on, accidents can be had. It's actually safer than an actual game by a pretty long margin there. So I think all these three events cover and fill the problems that are presented by both of the issues that are presented over the All-Star weekend, which is that we want to see the stars compete and they don't want to get hurt. And Saturday has become just not even worth watching because it's nothing but no-namers. We get rid of the game entirely. We have them all compete in these events. That way we can all have something to watch and something still to be fun, and everybody's safe and everybody can move on. Everybody can have a great time for the rest of the season. I think I'm onto something. I think my solution is the best solution. All-Star game exemption. No more All-Star games. Compete in an event.
I like that idea, and I will support it.
You got a better solution? Let me know. I think I've nailed it. And go ahead in the comments and let me know if you disagree. Moving on to another thing, though, in solving All-Star game problems. I hate to go here, but I'm gonna. I got to talk about the Mac McClung and Caitlin Clark inclusions here. Hit the picture here for me, Mateo. NBA has a DEI dilemma.
Black people too happy, white people too mad.
And I know I'm going to step on some toes here, but I'm being serious because I looked it up. Diversity, equity, inclusion is defined as prioritizing diversity inclusion to create a more inclusive workforce. That is exactly what the NBA either did or tried to do to drum up some ratings here in the three-point contest and the dunk contest. Three-point contest, like I said, stunk. It just wasn't very good. It kind of stunk out loud. And it was because Caitlin decided to take a pass. Caitlin said no, and they had to scrap all that. They even said because they canceled the actual thing that was fun last year, the Steph Curry-Sabrina shootout that almost everybody watched, that they weren't able to follow up with a sequel because, quote, they had plans that didn't work out. What we come to find out is that Caitlin turned it down. They were going to do Caitlin and Clay, Steph and Sabrina. That would have been awesome, but I do find it fascinating that the NBA, at least for the first time since I've been alive, said, dude, we need a WNBA player to come save our bacon and save our weekend. Let me know the last time you ever heard that. Like, when was the last time in, like, Jordan's run through, like, 98? Do you ever think the NBA was sitting around like, oh, my God, we can't get anybody to watch this thing. We need, like, Lisa Leslie. Where's Rebecca Lobo? You know, it was pretty interesting that was a route that they decided to go with because that was the highest part of Saturday last year when it was Steph versus Sabrina. So you had that going on, but Caitlin said, I got better things to do. I'd rather stay at home. And then the NBA dunk contest for the last 3 years has been saved by Mac McClung. And I'm sorry, as much as I like Mac McClung, from 2021 to now, he has never, and I repeat, never, signed an actual guaranteed contract. Mac McClung has only played 5 games in his 5 years in the NBA. He is a constant G Leaguer who they end up signing right before the All-Star break so they can let him into the dunk contest, A, because he's short, and B, because he's white.
It's all right, because it's all white.
I mean, I really don't even want to have to pretend that anybody doesn't know what I'm talking about. People have been tweeting about this. Kevin Love even famously said, how do they keep letting this little white guy keep beating everybody in the dunk contest in February during Black History Month? He's played 5 games. 5 games in 5 seasons. He is a G Leaguer. He is not, by definition, an NBA All-Star or anything close to it. To the comparison of, like, I do a podcast, that doesn't make me Joe Rogan. Yes, he has played in 5 games in his career, but he is not, should not, and has really no business being in the NBA All-Star Weekend dunk contest, but he's the only thing that we got that's any fun, that's any good, and so we let him in, and you got to admit, this has a lot to do with it. Most people have been at least open about this. This seems to be one of the least sensitive issues to talk about when it comes to race relations. Movies like White Men Can't Jump and everything else. I mean, it's a 6'2", 185-pound white boy, and the first guy since Brent Barry in 1996 to even win a dunk contest. And trust me, people like me, former white basketball players who can never jump a lick, we all watch this, and we do feel that little bit of tribalism. I can even name you, and most of us can, the only other few white guys who are ever good dunkers in the NBA, whether it's Mac or Barry or like Rex Chapman, Bob Sura, Birdman, Tom Chambers. It's a short list.
Because I'm white. Because he's white. Because he is white. Look at it.
It's a short list, and Mac McClung has clearly been included in this, not just because he is a great dunker, and he is a great dunker, but because they needed something to drum up the ratings, and so they let this dude in, and, I mean, let's keep it 100. We know why they let him in. I will say he did deserve it. Now, before I just completely shit on Mac, and I'm not trying to shit on Mac McClung, I'm really picking on the NBA here. Mac McClung won all 3 dunk contests absolutely fair and square. The only thing I will not listen to that is ridiculous are people trying to say that Castle or anybody else before him actually beat Mac McClung in these dunk contests.
That's dopey talk. That's dopey dumb talk.
Give me a freaking break. Pop the video up here for me. Mac McClung is not just the first three-peat champion in slam dunk contest history. Dude has a 43.5-inch vertical. That is the 7th highest recorded ever in NBA history. All 4 of his dunks this last dunk contest were 50s, joining only Zach LaVine, Gordon, Jones Jr. as people with 4 50s, and he's the first one ever to have 4 in a row that were all 50 points. When you watch him in the dunk contest, the other thing he does well too, as you see, these are just amazing dunks here. He makes them on the first try. Like even Castle's between the legs took too many attempts. He always seems to make them on the first try. And over the last 3 seasons, Mac McClung, out of the 12 dunks he's done, 8 of those have been 50. 8 of his 12 have been 50s. 3 years in a row, he's won. Yes, on Black History Month. Yes, he stole the show, but he's absolutely earned it. You cannot tell me Mac McClung does not actually know how to dunk. What you can argue is that because he's a G leaguer, he gets too much time to practice with the props and everything else. But 43.5-inch vertical, and he shows you every inch of it every time he goes out there. Dude is absolutely phenomenal because he really is truly one of the best dunkers of all time. He does all these contests. He's been doing them since he's young. He knows what he's doing, and so that's why the NBA brought him in. So I will not say out loud, at least, that Mac McClung did not win the dunk contest or that Mac McClung is not one of the greatest dunkers ever in NBA dunk contest history. I mean, it's him, Vince Carter, Jordan. Like, it's a short list now, LaVine and Gordon, of people that I would put in the echelon of Mac McClung, but I will not pretend that I don't know why this G Leaguer was given this pass after playing only 5 games in 5 seasons and why he was there in the first place, besides the fact that he's a very, 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 very good dunker. So I also want to institute this because I want to be consistent in arguments, and we hear a lot of people talk about all this type of stuff now, especially in the last year or so with DEI, and should this be here, and is that fair, and should you include this, and should we do that? I want to institute the Mac McClung rule. Hit the video here for me, Mateo. I want to now institute the Mac McClung rule, which is whether we open up this dunk contest fully or back to the NBA only. Because again, Mac McClung, as much as I like him, is a DEI hire. Yes, he is a 3-time champ. Yes, he has a 43.5-inch vertical, 7th highest ever. Yes, he's had 8 of 12 dunks for 50 over the last 3 years. But he has never had a guaranteed contract. 5 games played in 5 years. Matter of fact, here's a fun fact. Mac McClung has earned more money winning the dunk contest than he has from his NBA little contracts. Now, should he get a roster spot is a whole nother argument in the future because Mac McClung can actually play ball. Let me at least throw that out there. He broke Allen Iverson's scoring record in Virginia in high school, just so you know, back in 2018. He was on the 2023 championship team, and he's the 2024 G League MVP. 25.7 points and 6.6 assists per game last year in 27 games. He is good enough to be on a roster, but he is not. And so I want to be consistent. And if you are somebody who has arguments about this issue, you have to be consistent about the things you say should apply here. Does he get an unfair advantage because he gets to practice all his dunks and know how to use the props? Absolutely. Does it take away focus from the actual issues of the dunk contest, which is that the real stars don't compete? Absolutely. Does it create division because you bring in this white boy ringer from the G League in February of all months? Absolutely. So my solution is either after this third run of his, we open it up entirely, or we shut it back down to NBA players only. Because Mac McClung is, by the way, not the only G Leaguer who knows how to do some dunks. Bronny James is actually a great dunker, and I do suspect if he was in it, a lot of people would have lost their mind more than they did with Mac. But the NBA guys, too, they're not the only ones that can dunk. So why don't we bring in not just G Leaguers, why don't we bring in, all the dunk people? If we're just going to open it up, let's open it up entirely. Kilgannon, Fournette, Bowden, Todd, there's a lot of people out there, but consistency is more important than perfection, in my opinion. And in this situation, as much as I love Mac McClung, and I do think he deserves a roster spot, I want to reiterate that. I think Mac deserves a roster spot. Let's keep it a buck. This was what it was. And at some point now, we have to either work on this rule to where we open it up to the entire world and let everybody compete in the dunk contest, or we make it back to real NBA players. We can't just throw in the guy because he's a short little white guy and it's a good, feel-good story and it gives you ratings on Saturday. So pick one or the other. Just pick one and stick with it. All right, moving on from that little touchy situation, let me throw out to some other things going on in the National Basketball Association. I'm going to get to Wembanyama here in just 1 second, but let me throw overall, as I'm getting into kind of some touchy subjects, conspiracy theories have never been my thing. But post-trade deadline, I really started thinking about it, look at some of the results here. Mateo, if you can hit this picture here for me. I've never believed in conspiracies, but it is interesting to me with who was ended up where and how they got there in a year where the NBA was struggling for ratings. Anyone else notice this? The three biggest trades, in my opinion, were Luka to the Lakers, Jimmy to the Warriors, Fox to the Spurs. And isn't it interesting that it wasn't just the top two rated teams for the last decade in the Warriors and Lakers, Steph and LeBron, your two highest rated veterans who were struggling, suddenly got two guys that they could really use, but then the one guy who's the new future of your league in Victor Wembanyama got himself a young buck in De'Aaron Fox. Now, you could argue smart, organizations make smart decisions and the rich get richer, and that probably is exactly what happened. But if you've ever believed in any of that conspiracy stuff, it's interesting. The two highest-rated, most money-making teams that were struggling suddenly get a Luka and a Jimmy, and then the guy in your future suddenly gets a Fox, which is going to give him the next 1-2 punch to go for the next 10 years. They'll re-sign him after the season's over. I mean, look, the Lakers have won 9 of 11, and LeBron is all sorts of fired up now, especially with the addition of Luka Doncic there. 28.6 points per game, 9.8 rebounds, 8.8 assists in February, and they were able to keep connect. I thought that was it's kind of a risky decision when they decided to trade Dalton to bring in that center out there from Charlotte Williams, and somehow that got vetoed. They said he didn't pass the physical. Next thing you know, they got the keep connect, and they added a Lynn, who is not a great player, but what the Lakers need is actually a nice fit because Lynn is just a tall 7-footer, so now you got Hayes and Lynn for cheap. That's really all you need. With guys who create like LeBron and Luka, you really don't need much more than somebody who can just block shots, protect the rim, be tall, be athletic. Both Lynn and Hayes solve that problem. Connect is going to be a very good player for the foreseeable future, in my opinion, and I was kind of, I found that interesting that, suddenly that trade got rescinded. Next thing you know, he gets to stay in Los Angeles. I don't even know what to say as a Warriors fan. I am so happy about the Jimmy Butler trade. I'm just a pig and shit. We got rid of all the people that we could get rid of that really weren't crucial anymore to the actual success of the team, and the Warriors are 3-1 with Jimmy Butler. They really should be 4-0. Even Mavericks fans and people online admitted they got kind of robbed in that Mavericks game. But Jimmy with the Warriors now is 21.3 points per game, 7 rebounds, 5.3 assists. I call him the tourniquet because he is something the Warriors haven't had for years. Jimmy knows how to stop the bleeding in a game. The Warriors for years have either been a feast or famine. We're shooting, we're doing great, or we're bricking everything, and you see these big old swings in the game, 20-point lead to 15-point deficit in a matter of seconds. With Jimmy now, who knows how to get to the free throw line, one of the top 6 or 7 at getting to the line in the entire league, up there with like SGA and Harden. He's on that level. Suddenly we have somebody to stop the momentum and be able to get guys to, relax for a second and kind of get their wits about them. And instead of watching these huge swings and the pendulum just go dun 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 dun, Jimmy's able to stop it because he knows how to get to the free throw line. Fun fact, Jimmy Butler, when he joined the team, very first game, they gave us this stat, had already in 7 games in this season, hadn't even played most of the games, had gone at least to the line where he had 10 free throw attempts in a game 7 times. So 7 times Jimmy Butler had 10 free throw attempts at least in a game. The entire Warriors roster combined had a total of 7. That's how bad we were at getting to the free throw line. That's how good Jimmy is at getting to the free throw line. Now you've merged them together, and he's the perfect thing besides the toughness, the IQ, passing ability, leadership. I mean, he really fits him like a glove. And then De'Aaron Fox to Wemby is humongous. I mean, the Spurs, yes, they're losing right now. They lost 3 of 4, but De'Aaron Fox is the future to go along with Wemby, and they still somehow are able to get him and keep their 2 picks next year, which are 2 lottery picks in a very good class. I mean, look, the Warriors suddenly got the boost they needed. Lakers got themselves handed an all-time superstar. Next thing you know, the Spurs, the future of the NBA seems to be set up right with the lottery picks coming up and Fox being added, not having to give up too much. I mean, I don't know. I don't like putting on my tinfoil hat, but if you had one, that would be a good one to throw at. And let me keep going with Victor because it's interesting. Victor Wembanyama is clearly the future of the NBA. I don't know what to tell you. Mateo hit the picture here for me. He is the future. Victor is the future. I mean, you can look at everybody below them, and I'll give you a reason why Victor Wembanyama is clearly above them when it comes to being the quote-unquote future of the NBA. LeBron, Steph, and Kevin Durant, unfortunately, are all too old. They all got like 2 years left. Luka and Jokic are great players, but as through different ways of seeing it, we've been proven that they really sometimes don't want it and don't seem to really want to be the crown or to be the next guy to have the torch passed to them. Tatum won last year. Rating sucked. He's kind of boring. He doesn't seem to be it. I love Anthony Edwards, but he's not ready. He's starting to pick up his scoring. He's 5th in scoring, but he's 59th in rebounds. He's 50th in assists, and the Wolves don't seem that good this year. Ant doesn't seem ready to take the torch. SGA and Mitchell, now SGA might be your best argument. Along with Mitchell, they have some of the 2 best teams out there in the NBA currently, and they're great players, but neither one of them are really that exciting to watch, especially in SGA, who does like to get to the free throw line a lot of 15-footers. They just don't have anything we haven't seen before. Victor is the future because he has the talent, he has the stats, and most importantly, he does stuff we've never seen. What made Steph and LeBron so great and why they carried the torch for so long, they did things we've never seen. Now, some people have argued that Steph has ruined the game. That's another argument for another day. But the reason he did it is because he was able to do things that no one has done before him. Same thing with LeBron, his ability to combine his strength, speed, athleticism, passing, and everything else that he's done. He's had a lot of big, significant impacts into the game. Victor Wembanyama has the skill and at least the future possibility to do that, where nobody else on the bottom there is really in that level to me. Whether they're too old, they don't want it, they're just good enough, they don't seem to have that je ne sais quoi, to quote some, Frenchy talk here. Victor seems to be the one that should be the future going forward, and clearly in the next couple years is at least on the throne and should be, kind of waiting to have the crown passed to him. So, when he does the really stupid shit that he did over Saturday,
what a douche.
It's not good. It's not good that Wemby doesn't seem to, even at 21 years old, quite understand how stupid and lame what he did over the weekend was. In case y'all missed it, Saturday was the skills competition, and most of y'all did because who watches the skills competition? But I think a lot of y'all caught this online afterwards. In the Kia Skills Challenge, where it's teams of 2, they go through these silly little obstacle courses where they bounce the ball through the thing, and it's like passes and shots and all this, and a timed. It's really not that exciting. It's really not that fun, and usually would be completely unmemorable at all. Victor and Chris, though, from the San Antonio Spurs, found a way to make it memorable, and in all the wrong reasons, by completely embarrassing themselves. If you hit this video here for me, Mateo, they thought they found a loophole, I guess, in the competition and tried to cheat. So when they got up to the shooting part, as you can see here, they didn't even shoot the ball. They just started throwing it. Victor says it's his idea. This reeks of Chris Paul. But, of course, they got disqualified because you can't do that. And why would you do that? They had to show them the rule book. Chris Paul one day needs to get into politics. Absolutely needs to get into politics. But they tried to explain to him, like, guys, you can't do what you just did. That's not just embarrassing. It's also not a valid shot. So they got disqualified from the contest. But what makes me nervous was after the whole situation, they asked Victor about this. I didn't like what he said. Didn't like what he said at all.
Victor, who came up with the plan that just shooting shots faster would be a good...
I did. And I think, I don't regret it. I think it was a good idea.
What was the explanation you guys got?
I mean, we had the best time. Just numbers speak for themselves.
Yeah, was yours, was Chris?
Yeah, it was mine.
Yeah?
Uh-huh.
Are you disappointed that the rule deciders didn't see it?
I mean, no, I'm not disappointed. I mean, I'm going to have many more opportunities to win it in the future.
Do you think it was right for the fans to boo you in that spot?
Was I booed? I don't think I was booed.
Heavily.
You didn't hear?
I wasn't booed, right? Chris was.
No.
I wasn't. Was I booed?
Well, I guess at the end it was booed.
I mean,
Team.
yeah. Was that right? I don't know. I mean, if the challenge lets us do that, there's a loophole. It means that we're not a problem.
When did you start planning the strategy tonight? How did that
Today.
Yeah, was it Chris's idea or is your idea?
It was mine. Now I've answered the same questions like 3 times.
Is it a case where you outsmarted yourself a little bit? Or, I mean, it was a good strategy, but
I mean, I don't know. It's just not that big a deal, I guess.
All right, he says it's not that big a deal. He says it was a loophole, everything else. I mean, I don't mean to make a mountain out of a molehill, but I am gonna, because besides the fact that, yes, you did get the best time. Let's at least throw that out there. They got disqualified because they didn't even attempt to shoot a ball. They got it done in like 48 seconds. Usually it took like a minute. The bigger question, and apparently he asked 5 or 6 reps, as he does say it was his idea. The thing that I wonder is, you spent all of this time asking if you could. Why did y'all never ask yourselves if you should? Chris Paul is one thing. This is his 6th time in the thing. He wants to win. Chris is a win by any means necessary type. That's kind of his thing. I get it. But Victor, you are up next. You are the future. Why did you not ask yourself at any point, even though you're only 21 years old, dude, just because we could get away with this, should we do it and try to get away with this? Dude, it is a skills competition. It is the Kia Skills Challenge on a Saturday. What the hell are you doing?
What the f*** is that?
What are you doing? I mean, just take your 3 little shots. Make a shot. You're Victor. You're considered the future of the NBA, and you're afraid to take a shot and lose at the Kia Skills Challenge fairly. Instead, you thought you'd follow Chris and, falling on the sword. I'll at least give him that. I think he fell on the sword. I do not believe he did it. I really do think it's Chris Paul's idea. He probably got Victor to go ask all the questions, but I will reiterate, my best Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park, just because you could. Why did you think that you should? It was a terrible idea. You looked really bad for doing it. And if you want to work on a skill, Victor, this is the one that's been driving me nuts. Victor is, as I'm pointing out, is a great player. 24 points per game, 11 rebounds, 3.8 blocks this year, 35% from threes. He's got, he's an alien. He does all these different things. He can shoot from outside. He can cross you over. He's got all sorts of talent. But the one thing he hasn't learned, and I don't understand why not, and I've heard other people now bring it up, whether it's Kevin Garnett or even Victor himself in an interview said he works on this a little bit. But why, oh why, if you're so worried about winning skills competitions or working on your skills, have you not worked on the skill of the skyhook? I do not understand this at all. If there is any skills idea you should go with, it is to learn the skyhook. Hit this video here for me, Mateo. You have a 7'3", 8-foot wingspan at 7'3". That is the 3rd highest wingspan in history at 8 feet, only short to Taco Fall and Manute Bol, who are 7'7" to your 7'3". He has a 9-inch longer wingspan than Giannis Antetokounmpo and 4 or 5 inches in height. All the skills you're trying to learn the hook shot. A lot of y'all know a little bit about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the basic facts. That at 7'2", he's a 6-time scoring champ, 6-time MVP, 19-time All-Star, and was the all-time leading scorer when he retired at 42, which is crazy. He even got to retire at 42 back in 1989. That was unheard of. And you know why he got to play that long? Because of the skyhook. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had one shot, the skyhook, and he shot that bitch 30 times per game at a 50% clip, literally the first 4 of his 6 seasons, where he averaged 30 points per game. Over his career, we have put together between 1,800 games played and about 15 skyhooks per game that he shot 27,000 skyhooks over his career. Do you know how many recorded blocks Kareem had in all of those 27,000 shots? 3. That shot got blocked 3 times, and everybody knew it was coming out of 27,000 times. The ones to do it, by the way, Wilt Chamberlain and Ralph Sampson. Literally genetic freaks. Who in the NBA currently could stop the hook shot if Victor Wembanyama used his 7'3" height and his 8-foot wingspan and actually put it with all of that talent and coordination that he has? Why, oh why, oh why? You have not learned the skyhook. And yes, he said like, oh, I work on it a little bit, and I sometimes practice it. That should be the only thing you're doing. I can't imagine. If Victor learned the skyhook, the league would be toast. The league would be absolutely toast if he learned that one shot. Kareem lasted till 42 doing one damn shot. There was no mystery. That playbook was set in stone. What's Kareem going to do next? Skyhook. What's going to do next? Skyhook. 27,000 times it was blocked, a record of 3. It was the most unstoppable shot in history, and he is shorter than Victor, and he doesn't have the same wingspan that Victor has. Why you have not learned this skill is beyond me. And I just, in general, going all the way back to like the Britney slap, if y'all remember that. I know he's 21. And I know he's French, and the Europeans kind of have this kind of attitude about the way they treat the NBA. But he is supposed to be the future. If you can pop the video up here for me, Mateo, to put this all succinctly together, you're supposed to be up next. This is supposed to be your league, Victor. 24 points per game, 11 rebounds, 3.8 blocks. You're already shooting 35% from threes. At 21 years old, at 7'3", 8-foot wingspan. You are an absolute just monster with all the different things you can do on the court. You can block shots. You can pass. You are shooting the ball extremely well. You have handles. You have IQ. You have things that we cannot see anyone else put together, and it really does seem like you are the next one up. Again, everyone below you has a reason it is going to be your league and not theirs anymore. Between Steph, KD, and LeBron being too old, Jokic and Luka don't seem to want it. Tatum had it, and he doesn't even seem to be able to get the fan base behind him. And Anthony Edwards, while he's done well, again, is not leading in rebounds or assists. He's like in the 50th and only like 6th in scoring. It is your league. In about 2 to 3 years, you are going to get handed this torch, and doing stupid shit like you did on Saturday does not help your cause. And then saying afterwards that you still thought it was a good idea does not help your cause. I cannot imagine the guys that had the torch before you ever trying to win a Kia Skills Challenge on a loophole. Can you imagine Kobe or Jordan or Magic or Bird? You know, all these guys like, instead of taking a shot, let me just throw the ball away real quick and try to cheat my way through the Kia Skills Challenge. This is your league, dude. This is supposed to be yours. It looks like everything is going your way and everything is going to be literally given to you on a Spurs silver platter. But you have to get some maturity. You have to get some understanding of how to play the whole game. And you should learn a hook shot. Again, I don't know why he doesn't spend every day, 1,000 times a day, working on the sky hook the same way Kareem had it. I cannot imagine if Victor learned the sky hook just how screwed the entire league would be. Victor, it's up to you. You got about 2 years before it really is your time to shine. We'll see what you can do instead of doing stupid shit like you did over Saturday, which was, again, one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen. Shame on you. Shame on you. Chris, I'm used to. He does nonsense like that. Victor, grow up. I know you're 21. Grow up. Speaking of growing up, I got 2 quick things I want to get to that I'm going to call it. First of all, I have told y'all Juju Watkins is up next. I have said this. NCAA women's basketball and going into the WNBA when she gets drafted in 2 years. I do not care about Paige Beckers. Paige who? Juju Watkins is up next. I'm the one who told you she's up next. So I just want to go ahead and clarify that. I said Juju a couple years ago. I'm like, this one will be right after Caitlin. And sure enough, she is right on schedule. If you can pop the video up here for me, Mateo. Just this last week, she took her 6-seeded USC. There we go. She just took her 6-seeded USC and defeated number 1 UCLA, ended their 23-game win streak with a 38.5 assist game, and was able to take out the rival Bruins in a huge performance. Again, 38, 11, and 5. The entire USC team had 71 and 12. The other 4 starters combined for 21 points. She had 38 and 5. And she's a bad girl. As you can see by the highlights, she's got the shake, she's got the star quality, she's got the ability. She is really starting to roll. Took out undefeated UCLA. Looks like a star while doing it. This is, of course, the former number 1 recruit in her class from Sierra Canyon. She just last year set the Division I freshman scoring record. Juju Watkins is her right now in NCAA women's basketball, and I'm one of the ones who told you that this girl was coming, and now she's, really announcing her presence with authority with this last victory over UCLA. So I said it, a lot of people have said it, and she's right on schedule. What I cannot let y'all say, and what is driving me nuts, if you can hit this picture here for me, Mateo, is that y'all are saying she's already better than Caitlin.
That's dopey talk. That's dopey dum-dum talk.
Slow your roll. There is a difference. Do you want to crown her too soon is the joke I made for this, but I'm being deadly serious because Juju Watkins, as great as she is, and as great as she played against UCLA, you have to look at me and listen to me, is not better than Caitlin currently in one statistical category. Even sophomore year to sophomore years. You look at the stats in the picture here. I am not going by Caitlin's senior year. I am going by Caitlin's sophomore year to Juju's sophomore year to try to be fair. This season, Juju Watkins, as good as she's been, 24.2 points per game, 6.9 rebounds, 3.6 assists, 43% from the field. Very impressive. However, Caitlin, as a sophomore, 27 points per game, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, 45% from the field. Matter of fact, Caitlin, her sophomore year, became the first woman ever in Division I history to lead in points and assists in the same season. Juju currently is 4th in points, 172nd in assists and 226th in rebounds. It is a whole different level between being the best player currently in women's basketball in college and being better than Paige Beckers and being able to take the crown. You do not have literally a statistical argument to go with other than you just have emotion and desire, and I get it. A lot of people either have Caitlyn fatigue or there's other reasons behind being mad about Caitlyn. But I'm one of the ones who said Juju is bad. She's the next one. She is that girl. She is going to kick a lot of ass when she makes the WNBA, and I've been on her side. However, when y'all say stupid stuff like, oh, she's already better than Caitlyn because you just want it to be and you just magically want it to happen, I have to reiterate, she is not higher in points. She's not higher in rebounds. She's not higher in assists. She's not higher in field goal percentage. She does not have even more records. She does not have more, even victories against number one teams. Caitlyn beat an undefeated team named South Carolina who had won more games than 38, than 23 to 38. They were in the, NCAA Final Four, and she had like 41, 6, and 8 while doing it. So while I'm proud of Juju getting that 38, 11, and 5, it ain't what Caitlyn did yet. She has a ways to go. She is not better than her in any statistical category. She's a great girl, but you'll have to stop trying to compare the two. It's not fair.
Your Honor, I object.
And why is that?
Because it's devastating to my case.
You have nothing to stand on yet. I love what she's doing, but do not try to crown her too soon. You want to crown her too soon. She's not Caitlin Clark yet, and that's okay. Let Juju be Juju. Let Juju be Juju. She's better than Paige. I'll give you that. I would take her over Paige Beckers in a New York minute. I love Juju. I think she's going to be the next big thing in the WNBA, but she still has a ways to go before she gets that crown off old you-know-who. Last thing, and then I got to call it, I got to shout out Bronny James quickly because Bronny James found his balls. Good for you. Good for you, Bronny James. Bronny James has finally found his balls and is really starting to tear up the G League. And I have said from jump, go check my receipts and check my old videos. Bronny James is a talented kid, 20 years old, 6'2", 210 pounds, almost a 41-inch vertical. He comes from LeBron James. He has, obviously some talent just born into him. And besides that, all the hard work and all the training that comes with being the son of a pro athlete. The only thing Bronny has ever needed is confidence. And that does scare me. It has always scared me with Bronny James about, can this guy just find his sack down there and sometimes remind people like, dude, I deserve to be here just like anybody else. That is something I have learned over the years. As much as I root for certain players, you kind of either have that or you don't. It's hard for a player to start timid and then to find his balls eventually, after a few years and develop the confidence, because it's kind of, like the Matrix. Everyone's seen the Matrix with the Oracle when she's trying to explain to Neo, who did eventually become it, of like, dude, becoming the one or being the man is just know thyself. It's just, it. Balls to bone. No one has to tell you anything. No one has to remind you. You just are able to walk on a court and go, God damn it, I'm Bronny James, and I'm just as good as anybody else out here, and I'm about to prove it to you. And you either sometimes have it in there or you don't. And he came out timid and he came out shy, and it really was disappointing. But I think a lot of the outside pressures and things that he dealt with make him a unique situation. And it looks like he's finally starting to put together some pretty good stats and become a pretty good player. And I'm just happy for him because I just, like I said, I saw from the I was like, this kid can play. Everyone's shitting on this kid. This kid can go. He just needs some balls. Bronny's found his balls. Congratulations. Hit the highlights here for me. In case y'all have missed it in the last few weeks or so in the G League, Mateo hit the video here for me. Bronny James has been going to work. In the G League currently, Bronny James is averaging 22.6 points per game, 5.4 rebounds, 4.4 assists, 2.2 steals, and is shooting 43% from the field, 39% from three, 79% from the free throw line, and more importantly is he's aggressive, and it looks like he's finally having some fun with this, and he's not feeling the pressure of being Bron's kid or being a Nepo baby or whatever. But I mean, he's really put on a hot stretch, and you can see it. Look at the talent. This kid can play. Stop telling me this kid can't play. He's been nervous, he's been shy, he's been a lot of things, but he is not just a Nepo baby who never deserved to be there. Bronny James can play some basketball, and I always root for this kid. He even is able to show out a little bit in the NBA. I mean, not just the 3 points per game right now in the G League currently. He went and played against the Utah Jazz just last week, and in 8 minutes had 9 points and assists, shot 3 of 4 from the field, 2 of 3 from the three-point line, and yes, it was all in, garbage time. But, I mean, just a month ago or two, you said this kid was never going to do anything. He was never going to be any good in the G League. Next thing you know, he's averaging 23 points a game. And, again, he's never going to score in the NBA. Look at this. Look at Bronny go. Nice little runner right there. He's going to hit a real quick catch and shoot release in the corner here. And I know, again, all garbage time. I hear you, but watch. Bronny's going to hit a real quick, just confidently, Klay Thompson-esque from the shot pocket. And then he's going to hit this step back. Look at the talent on this kid. Excuse me. It's a much taller defender. Get him off me. Perfect. He's got a nice shot. He's got some handle. Of course, he's got the athleticism. He's LeBron James' son. I will always root for Bronny, and this is even outside of LeBron, because he has had every excuse not to do what he's trying to do. That is the main reason I'm able to separate. And I think a lot of y'all have a hard time with this. Let's all agree that Bronny James is actually not LeBron James. They are actually two separate people. And I will root for Bronny James, even though I'm not the biggest fan of LeBron James, because he had every excuse to not go for any of this. This kid was already in college worth $5 million because of his own net worth, and his dad was a billionaire. Then he had a heart attack and literally almost died. I've talked about this before, but I mean, seriously, people calling him a Nepo baby, like he's the only person ever who's used his family to help him get a job. He becomes the 55th pick. Everybody laughing in his face, telling him he shouldn't be there. And after a heart attack and everything else, he already had all the money. He could have sat on his ass. He decided to try to do something with everyone telling him that he couldn't do it. And, it's the old saying, overcoming challenges makes life meaningful. He could have just sat around, played video games, be a millionaire. He decided not to. He decided to continue to pursue his dream. He is looking like he is doing a lot better, and I am proud of him for it, even though I don't know him from the man on the moon. I've also heard a lot of people say that he's nothing but a nice kid, that he seems to be very humble, that he works really hard, and is the son of a pro athlete. And I will finally end this with that lecture part. Look at sons of pro athletes in any sport. They all seem to do very, very well, which makes a lot of sense between the Stephs and Clays, Barry Bonds, the Peyton and Elines. They all have training, or they have abilities, or usually sometimes genetics just handed to them. You combine it with work ethic, with humility, and with some stick-to-itiveness that Bronny has shown me so far, and you're starting to see the improvement that we've been hoping to see for a while. Congratulations, Bronny. I think you're a good kid. I'm rooting for you, and I think you deserve it. I got to go. I am out of time. You guys enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll talk to you soon. Later.